Eli Apple. He's one of the most polarizing players in the NFL. Back in time, he was a superstar for Ohio State and had really high expectations when he was taken by the Giants. Now, a couple years later, as I said, Eli Apple is one of the most polarizing players in the NFL, and some would argue maybe he's even the most hated. Yeah, he might have gotten exposed in the Super Bowl, but Eli Apple has a great story, and in today's video, I want to talk about who he is, how good he was at Ohio State, and what his legacy has been in the NFL. But before we can get into that, nearly 80% of you guys are not subscribed, and we are now on the road to 100K, so quickly be sure to hit that subscribe button, smash that like button for the algorithm, and turn on post notifications so you never miss when I upload. Now, let's get started and talk about what happened to Eli Apple. His name actually isn't even Eli Apple. In fact, it's Eli Woodward. He had a weird first few years as he was born in Philadelphia, then lived in Ghana, and then moved to Brooklyn before eventually returning to Philadelphia. He got the last name Apple from his stepfather as he would become the main person in his life, and he would later change his last name to honor him. He said he was fueled by so many days of backyard football with his stepfather, and his mom said, quote, "It's almost weird to call him a stepfather. He's been around forever." That's Eli's dad. Tim and Eli would watch Eagles games and then take his son out in the backyard to play catch, and this got him hooked on the game. His mom said, quote, "Tim would be the quarterback and Eli would be the wide receiver. Workouts, practice, everything, they did it. That's what nurtured the love of the game for him." But he wasn't always sold on football. He had two older brothers, and they were pretty serious about football for a little while, and Eli said he always wanted to play, but he was scared. He said he was really little back in the day and didn't want to get hit, so it took him a long time to get used to the physical part of the game. He said he was more of a track or a soccer guy, but then football would take over. By the time Eli was 7 years old, he was already watching the NFL draft and knew someday he'd be a part of it. There were a few players that Eli looked up to. His mom said, quote, "When he was younger, he really liked LaDainian Tomlinson. He loved Marcus Allen, Darrelle Revis, and Malcolm Jenkins." In 2008, we have a funny story. His family went and met Senator Barack Obama during a campaign stop, and his security staff actually took Eli's football away because they were worried he might throw it at him. Switching on to a more serious note, his mother would make him put his goals on a bulletin board, and when he was in 7th grade, he said he wanted to be an Army All-American, play at Ohio State, get drafted, win a Super Bowl, and become a Hall of Famer. And you could say he's done pretty well at that so far. He began attending camps in middle school, so he was on recruiters' radars for a pretty long time. By the time he was halfway through high school, he had blown up. He had attended a camp at Ohio State prior to his junior year and earned a scholarship from the coaches for his performance during the summer camp. He did love it, but Alabama came in with an early offer during his junior year, and some thought this could change the course of his recruitment. He always wanted to go to Ohio State, but his interest really grew when they hired Urban Meyer. And back in the day, there was actually a picture of Eli Apple with Jim Tressel, and this would circulate amongst Ohio State's diehard recruiting fans. He had been participating in Ohio State camp since he was in 7th grade, and he'd eventually make it official and commit to the Buckeyes over the likes of Notre Dame, Rutgers, Purdue, Alabama, and Florida. This would all come before his senior year. While he was at Eastern High School in New Jersey, he was a winner and dominated on both sides of the ball. And fun fact, Joe Flacco's little brother was actually the quarterback. Eli would fight hard till the end of his high school career as he would help them get to the New Jersey State Championship game, but they failed to win a title as they lost 30-27, but he played both offense and defense. That would wrap up a great year. He had 17 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, 45 tackles, 3 forced fumbles, and a block kick in 2012, while also catching 39 passes for 770 yards and 4 touchdowns. But the most important part of his senior year would come when he changed his name from Eli Woodward to Eli Apple to honor his father. Eli said, quote, "A wise man once stated, fatherhood is not biology. Fatherhood is responsibility. From the time I was 2 years old, my dad, Timothy Apple, has been my father. He's nurtured, provided, and protected our family, and I am the man I am today because of his tireless love and commitment to our family. So it is with great pride and honor to carry his last name. I'm truly blessed to be Eli Apple. Go Bucks." Apple was a huge deal, as according to 24/7 Sports, he was a 4-star recruit, the number 7 corner, and the 53rd best player in the class of 2013. When he signed with Ohio State, he said, quote, "It's kind of crazy. Most of these things I'm looking at right now in my bedroom are going to be the accomplishments, and there are still things that haven't been accomplished. It's not done yet." Eli arrived at Ohio State, but things didn't go super easy for him. He felt down on himself because he was on the scout team. As we all know, he started on both sides of the ball in high school, so he was very disappointed that he didn't play. But his dad said something that would stick with him. He said, quote, "Eli, that's great because you get to go up against the first team offense every day in practice. That can only make you better." He was behind future NFL players Deron Grant and Bradley Roby, but he waited for his turn, stayed patient, and worked his tail off. He texted Kerry Coombs every day for years and watched more film than the quarterback. JT Barrett said, quote, "I'm the quarterback, but Eli's watching more film than me." Eli's starting mentality and work ethic he adopted eventually helped him win a starting spot, and he became an unstoppable force for the Buckeyes that would lead them to the national championship game. In 2014, he'd have 33 tackles with 1 forced fumble and 3 interceptions. The Buckeyes would go on to win the national title behind the legs of Ezekiel Elliott, and if Apple had a big 2015 season, he could become a big-time NFL draft prospect. The numbers were alright. He finished with 23 solo tackles with 1 interception. He didn't have a sack, he didn't have a pass deflection, or even a forced fumble, but I guess scouts saw enough in Eli to make him a top 10 pick. He eventually went with the 10th overall selection to the New York Giants, and the hype for him was pretty unreal, but it didn't seem to get to him. When he got drafted, his mom wanted to make sure that he was being wise, as Eli was offered Rolex watches and diamonds to wear on draft day, but his mom said this, quote, "Dude, you're an unemployed college dropout. You will not be on TV with a Rolex." This would seemingly stick with him, as Eli would get to work immediately. In 2016, he finished with 51 total tackles with 1 interception and 1 forced fumble, but that ended up being his best season with the Giants. In 2017, he would have 49 tackles. He would have 49 tackles, but that was really his only impact. In 2018, he'd only play in 5 games, and now he was considered a bust by many. He was also not a favorite in the locker room, as apparently going back to December 20th of 2017, tensions had reached an all-time high, as Landon Collins said that Apple was a cancer and should not be on the team in 2018. Just 7 days later, he was suspended by the team for arguing with a coaching staff, and the coach said, quote, "He's shown a pattern of behavior that is detrimental to the team." In 2018, the Giants would get a new coach in Pat Shurmur and believed that Apple deserved a clean slate. He'd end up starting alongside Landon Collins and Curtis Riley, but on September 16th against the Cowboys, he would suffer a groin injury which would mess up his 2018 campaign. He'd end up finishing with 23 total tackles and 1 forced fumble, and it was time for the Giants to move on from him. From there, he was signed by the New Orleans Saints, where he would play for them for 2 years. He'd have 52 tackles in 2018 and 58 tackles in 2019. They'd end up deciding to move their separate ways, so in 2020, Apple would once again have to find a new home. This would come with the Carolina Panthers. He played in 2 games for them, having a total of 4 tackles, and this was a very short-lived period for him. He'd get one more opportunity, and this would come with the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals had a really bad 2020 season and were not supposed to be anything special in 2021. As we all know though, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase set the NFL on fire and got them all the way to the Super Bowl. Eli Apple became a starting corner for them and was very all over the place. Some games he was good, some games he was bad, but no matter what, he still took to Twitter. He was constantly trash talking, poking fun at people on that popular social media app. So when he got exposed in the Super Bowl, so many NFL players came out from under their box to talk to him, and Apple definitely had to eat crow. I think he'll end up getting another chance to play with the Bengals in 2022, and he still loves the game of football, so there's no reason why he wouldn't continue to put in the work. Overall, I'm actually a big fan of Eli Apple because I loved him back at Ohio State, and props to him for continuing to fight. I will say maybe he should slow it down a little bit on social media, but he is entertaining a lot of people, and as long as it's not destroying him, I don't see much harm in it. What do you guys think though? Has Eli Apple been a bust in the NFL? Is he the most hated player? And what guy should I take a look at in my next What Happened To video? Be sure to let me know down below, smash that like button if you want to support today's video, and check out all my other videos on the end screen, and I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.